Check 1 2, check 1 2. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. Okay, we are here at the house. Decided to do it from home today. Welcome to today's version of Circle Talk. I myself, so let me turn this down. Uh, Want to thank all of you guys for being a part of what we have going on today. If you guys are just tuning in, I'm here with my guy Antonio McLemore's building. I'm really excited to get into this because I heard a lot about him. And, we're going to kind of sift through some things and give you guys some information about who he is behind closed doors. I know y'all probably seen him out there doing amazing work in our communities all across Tacoma and Washington. But I want to know where it all starts. That's really what we're about here at the Circle. So I'm excited to get down and share this moment with him. But first, let's go ahead and give a thank you to all of our sponsors out there that continue to be a part of what Circle is all about. First off, Icon T, thank you so much for continue to be a huge asset into everything that I do. If you guys are looking for anybody to get you to any destination, if you want to go to games, if you're trying to go to a dance, some amazing event, and don't really want to drive, my guy Willie Jr. Thomas is in charge of the party bus extravaganza. So hit him up at Icon ENT and let him know I sent you. Second, want to give a huge shout out to my guy at iShotcha.com, Mr. Marvin Patterson. Thank you so much for being my and the P's and Q's on how to become a professional and not only my media, but photography as well. If anybody's looking for a professional that'll get your pictures done correctly, hit up Marvin Patterson at iShotcha.com and he'll make sure that he gets you done correctly. If you tell him I sent you, he'll give you a nice discount too. So hit him up. Next, the Chayah fashion. Shout out to Zakia for continued support and continued amazing work she's been doing in the community. She has an event coming up this Friday. We will post all the information as far as that event goes as soon as we're off. I'm really excited for everything that she has going on. If you guys want to know more about what Zakia's to at the Chayah Fashion, hit up chayahfashion.com and you'll be able to get in contact with anything that she has going on. Finally, there's a lot of them, guys. I'm sorry. Marquita Evans over in Smoothie. Make sure you guys stay in contact. She's doing so amazing. She was on Evening News a couple weeks ago, and now she's working on 2 more stores in the Washington area. But she's doing such an amazing job of sharing her knowledge and her heart with all of the people around our area. She's definitely someone that you want in your corner. So thank you so much, Marquita, for allowing us to be on the same team and continue, support as we continue through this thing called community work. So thank you all so much, and let's get into it. I want to start talking with this man and stop my talking because y'all I ramble a little bit. So how you doing today, brother?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm doing well, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm a firm believer that what we fail to honor, we lose.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that I want to do is just take a few moments before even we get into the interview, to give you your roses. Hey. And I think a lot of the work that you've been doing in our community, but more so providing us with content, connecting our community back to the roots, of the stories of those that have gone before us. I think sometimes what happens is we rob ourselves of our future because we're not aware of the past.
Absolutely.
But I can't truly take hold of what's in front of me without truly understanding and grasping what's gone before us. So Thank you for taking the time to share stories with community members. And I'm just honored to kind of share this platform with you and for all the greats that have gone before me. So
I do appreciate it, man. It's been a long road, but I think at the end of the day, God put us in specific places for a reason.
True.
And before I was doing this, I was trying to figure out where I was going with my whole nonprofit. But he led me here and he said, "Here, do something." And it's blossomed, and I'm so thankful that he is using me, and that's what it's all about. So let's get into you. It all started, you're upbringing, family life. Let me know a little bit about you, man.
Yeah, this is typical where people ask the question, how much time you got? So I'm originally from Northern California.
Yeah.
And so my older brother and I, my mom, she packed up the car. She moved us to Washington. Tacoma actually was our first spot. I'll never forget this, which is such a random fact. But my mom said that we were trying to get a place in Tacoma, but while we were waiting on kind of that process, she said that that Eddie Murphy was performing in Tacoma.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that must have been a long time ago.
A long
while ago.
Yeah, Eddie. And she's like, I could not find a hotel, so she's like, I had to stay in like Olympia or something like that. She's like, did every hotel in the area, and so we had lived in Tacoma for 2 years, and then we moved to Seattle and Federal Way, and so I'd always like very much call myself a nomad. Because as a single mother, my mom was always like, as soon as the neighborhood would get a little bit too rowdy, she'd be like, no, time to go. Time to go. And but I would say that I grew as a man, moved to Tacoma when I was in 7th grade, and so much of the way that I see the world, the way that I see people, and my calling that I understand, was shaped and formed by Tacoma, the friends, family, faith, and in this space. So
absolutely. And the one thing that if you guys don't know, this is what our show is going to be about today. Faith, right? Just giving you guys a quick rundown of who he is and where he's from. But we're gonna keep hone in on those key components here as we continue through. So when you guys first got to Tacoma, what was it like during time? Because I know for me, I was brought up pretty much from the get. My dad was in the military, had a kid, and then moved here, and we got stuck here. How was it when you got here, though?
It's interesting because I grew up on the other side of Tacoma. So we lived off of 348th, Federal Way, so like Northeast Tacoma area. Yeah. And what was interesting, like there was, I didn't have any white, there was like one white neighbor. Everybody else was like from different PLCs, people of color and different diasporas. And there was like one space in Northeast Tacoma where kind of all the people of color lived. And I would say that was an interesting journey for me growing up. It was the first time that I began to understand that I was Black. I went to an all-Black school in Seattle, Zion Preparatory Academy. Shout out to Seattle. Like, great to lead. Like I can't think of many other schools in the state of Washington that's done a better job of developing young men, awesome. young queens.
Absolutely.
The Zion Preparatory Academy no longer exists in the Seattle area, but men in the CD. And I had male teachers. I mean, all my teachers were male. You might know the name of Terry Metcalf, who All Purpose. Absolutely. He still holds the all yard purpose in the NFL. So he still holds records in the NFL. My bus driver. Sure. And so I had this very rich history of men, long skilled men being a part of my journey. And then I went to Meeker Middle School, where there was like 20 Black folks on the entire school. I know. and it was like sort of life like shattering, but also like, and just all the good and the bad and ugly, because it was the first time that I had to entertain the idea of being a Black person in a white people's world.
Interesting.
And it was hard. It was difficult. I remember the first time that someone asked me, like, someone called me the N-word.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I mean, I'd heard, the word. Right. But I did not even know how to respond to it. I'm like, I guess I should be mad. Should I fight you? Should I throw hands?
Yeah.
Should you catch your balls?
Yeah.
And I remember having to ask like other individuals, because like all my entire world was like a Black church. Right. I lived in Black, like I lit CD, like, so everything that I knew was around Black folks.
Absolutely.
And so it was a very interesting comparison, because I think a lot of like time I got to Stadium High School, and I was around a lot of my Hilltop friends. They had they had assumptions about who I was. Yeah. They was like, oh yeah, tell me that, did it. I'm like, nah, that's not my world. They come over. My friends from the Hilltop come over my house. They're like, yo, bro, I don't want to go to your house, man. Your mom make everybody cleaning. Everybody got to do yard work. And my mom family really from Louisiana, so my mom had very old school values. You come in the house, everybody has a responsibility. I don't care if you walk in. She's like, hey, you come in as a guest, you leave your family. Everybody's responsibility. So our friend like, no, I'm not going home. We're going to Antonio's house.
Hey, what part of Louisiana? This is off topic.
I don't even know. I haven't tapped in with my roots in Louisiana because it kind of migrated from Louisiana to Southern Cal.
Okay.
So I have like most of what I know about my history and heritage is in Southern California on my mom's side.
I'm gonna give you a little advice. This is totally off topic, but I just feel like we need to talk about this. When I was 31 years old, I took my first trip out of the state. Obviously, I've been Canada a few times, before that. But as far as tapping with my roots, I didn't tap into my roots until I was 31 years old. By then, I had lost my grandma, my grandpa on my dad's side. I lost my grandpa on my mom's side. And so, like, I missed so much by not taking that time and doing that.
That's good.
All my family in Louisiana.
Oh, okay, really?
Yeah. So for me, like, I wish I would have had that opportunity a little bit earlier in life. I didn't because I just didn't have money. I had a kid when I was turned 20. I was working and going to school at the same time and just trying to find my way in the world. And finally got a little bit of extra money, and I was like, well, I need to do this. For me, because I need to know where I came from. I don't have any family here. I have brothers. My mom and dad moved back. So there's nobody here but me and my brothers. And so I said, I'm going to do this. I need to go down. I need to figure out where I'm from, who my people are, what we're all about. And when I got there, it was probably one of the best trips that I ever took, bro. I mean, everybody accepted me. I mean, and a lot of people out there that watch my shows know a little bit about that because I talk about it. It's a very important part of who I am as a person. Growing up on the hilltop, it's like you guys grew up on Northeast, Tacoma. You was in a black area, but then you went to Meeker.
Yeah.
And then you had that cultural shock and surprise. I went through the same thing. I grew up in the church area. My mom and dad was all about church when my mom and dad was together. My mom was about church. And so I went to church school until I was in the 5th grade. And then I transferred to Bryant.
Okay.
And then, I mean, it was still hood.
Yeah.
But, I seen white people. I seen Asians. I seen Puerto Ricans. I seen all these different cultures. And I felt like, oh, this is what it's really about here. But I never looked at life, the way that I looked at it after I left the church, because the church painted this picture. I'm not saying nothing against the church. Y'all know I'm about God to the day I leave this earth. That's what it's all about. And then I'm riding with him, But like the church that I went to, they painted this picture like this is what it's all. And was like white people. It was all black church. So that's all I ever knew. But that's not what this world is about,
huge.
though.
That's huge.
And so I needed to learn.
That's huge.
You know what I'm saying?
That's huge. And that's really a part of like my story. And that's why I think it's important that I talk about that piece, because like most of my world prior to moving Northeast was insulated in our community. And I was never forced to engage with different.
Yes, absolutely.
And so this is like even in like the equity conversation, when people ask me about the equity and diversity, racial, equity and inclusion, I always say like the foundational work is the human work.
Yeah.
And oftentimes you find individuals that their world have been insulated. And so they just don't have the cultural understanding of how other people, like, code switching, we speak a different language. Different culture, they have different rules that they operate by. But moving to Northeast Tacoma is for me to learn how to engage with different. And it forced me to think and process outside of all the like that I've been taught. And it challenged me, like, some of those biases that I had, right? And man, I developed a skill because I was also an athlete, right? So like one of the coldest brothers, who was his brother named Harrison, Harrison Stanfield. That brother was cold.
He was a hooper,
white boy. Ooh, he was cold. He was cold. Like I had never seen nothing like this.
Right.
And like became one of my friends. You develop these relationships, and I think if I could fast forward a lot of the work that I do now, and I can go in any space.
Yeah.
Whether I'm in Africa, travel the world, wherever I am engaging with people,
right.
I've learned the skill of engaging with humans at a very human level.
Yeah, absolutely.
We might have differences, you might have different cultural norms, but on a very human basic level, like there are all things that we understand, right? Like no matter where you are in the world.
Absolutely.
There are things that we all understand to be true. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. I'm grateful that my mom was intentional about moving me in that space because, you know, it could have been easy. Like, yo, we're going to move to the hilltop.
Just move to the hilltop. Yeah.
Just move to the hilltop. And it would have been good. But my mom wanted to challenge the way that I think. One of my mentors, Aaron Jones, she always says that learning can't exist until we're willing to go beyond ourselves. Or in other words, this is like my functional definition is learning can't exist until we're willing to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And my mom forced our family to get uncomfortable.
And
that transformed my life. It helped to shape and form how I think. Because oftentimes, like even in this conversation, I there's this, you know, my guy named Isley from Stadium High School, and he's doing really good. But I remember we were a sophomore in high school, and he was like, yo, bro, all I'm ever going to know is the streets.
Yeah,
be on this block. And I'm like, dang, bro, there's so much more.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have these conversations. And I remember some of the youth work I was doing. There was a family I was working with from the hilltop. And she's like, well, I raised some money for their kids to go on a camp. So and she's like, never, like my boys have never been on a vacation. They've never left the air. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, we didn't have money either.
Right.
But this was my mom. My mom would buy a $30, $40 tent. She bring a thing of bologna and bread, butter, and we would go to a KOA site.
Yeah.
And if we caught fish, we would fry that bad boy up.
Fish, yeah.
If we didn't catch nothing, we didn't eat nothing. It was just bologna. And so, like, what my mom was showing me that you don't need a lot.
Right.
And so I was like, don't deprive your children because the expectation of what you think vacationing is Disneyland. Right? Like I just went to Disneyland for the first time. I'm 35 years old. The first time I ever went to Disneyland.
Never been.
Right. And so, but that isn't like, but I think sometimes we're competing with the Joneses and what it looks like to serve our young people and to like get them from their space. I cannot tell you. I used to think this was the craziest thing. Like when I would talk to, cause like when I got to Stadium, like my world shifted from like the East Side Hilltop. That's where I was all day. That's where all my friends were. That's where I was running. I was running street route, MLK. Right? I just was hanging. And my people would be like, yo, what's on the other side of that bridge? I'm like, yo, you playing with me, right? I'm like, you trolling me? I'm like, come on, man, you playing.
Yeah.
Nah, what's on the other side of that, bro? I'm like, come, like really, like real conversation. Like, yo, what's over there? I'm like, bro.
You talking about Browns Point?
No, like just
Northeast?
Across. They never left Tacoma.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like I've never really left Tacoma.
Yeah,
like
that's crazy.
That's asinine, right? Like there's no reason why. Like, but it just goes back to the learning aspect, right? When I think about a lot of the community work that I do, I can't tell you how many times that I've met young people that have told themselves that this is their world. I'm going to be this circle, and they've developed a set of behaviors because of this society.
Yeah.
And so because I live in Shalashan, because my mom is this, because my dad's this, because I don't know any men that's gone to college, here's my world, and I'm just going to be the best that this environment will allow me to be. Right. So I don't have hoop dreams, bro. You're going to see me selling drugs on the street. Yeah. But a lot of that is because their world has just been so insulated that they've never actually seen some leader on their entire environment.
And I agree with that. You also have to. Who is saying that they cannot leave that area? Facts. Sometimes these people are being
that's a conversation
facts. You ain't gonna get anywhere further than this, and so that is kind of sticking to them as well.
Facts. Facts. So like, man, I'll share the story. My mom's a great, like one of my heroes. She's one of the greatest humans in the world. And my mom she was so brilliant. She found a way to be a master of her resources. And so we didn't have a lot growing up. And so it's like I hated Christmas. Yeah. Hated birthdays, because, like you got to think about my context. Like I live around people who got abundance. Sure. You know, like, yeah, that's my BMW when I turned 16. Yeah. And so like for my mom would give me, I get a toothbrush, you know, like how I got household items, the necessity socks, undies for Christmas. Right. I'm opening up these packages. I'm like, undies, socks, toothbrush. Come on. Yeah. But the older I got, I remember I was 11 years old and my mom wouldn't buy these huge boxes, man. And I'm like, you know, growing up, you see big boxes and it's heavy. I'm like, yo,
I think so, man. It's amazing up in there for you.
Oh, and it had my name on it. I'm like, and she set it up before Christmas. I'm like, yo, I can't wait. Yeah. It's a computer. Yeah. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I'm like, it's a bike, something. I'm
something
like, something major. And my box is bigger than everybody else's box. And
it's going down.
Going down. Christmas Day, I'm running a Usain Bolt up the stairs. and my mom's like, you know, hey, let's get all the family together, do the presents, start the box. I'm like, hold on, I'll start ripping stuff. I'm like, vacuum. Nah, I'm ripping. I'm like, hold on, maybe she used the refurbished the box. Yeah. I ripped the box. It's a vacuum cleaner. I'm like, Mom, quit playing with me. You know, so I'm like, hold on, this is a new vacuum cleaner. You got me a vacuum cleaner? Mom, really?
Time to make money.
And my mom was like, yeah, but it's yours. See, now I got 4 brothers. Yeah. Brothers like, you can. It's mom. It's mom. I'm like, Brad, look at my vacuum. Look at my bag. Right. I'm like, look at my vacuum. Yeah. And my older brother's like, yeah, it's yours. Yeah. He's like, you have that. I'm like, Mom, I can use it anytime I want. Yeah. Mom's like, yeah, sure. It's yours. Mm-hmm. You can use it whenever you want. And I'm like, hey, cool. My brother's like, yeah. Head over to my room whenever you want, bro. Mm-hmm. And what my mom was teaching me is to honor what I have. Mm. Like and shifting my perspective of what God had given us so we could afford. Mm-hmm. And that was like part 1 of Christmas. Right. The second part is we would drive into like the real nice neighborhoods, and where they do real lights. Yeah. You know, and this is actually around the time that we would drive to like Kent area, and these big, huge mansions, beautiful houses. And I hate it because that wasn't the first time we did it. Because even prior to moving to a home, and like the first time we bought a home when I was 11 years old, or 12, sorry, we lived apartment. We go to these nice neighborhoods, and so I forget that particular year. I'm like, man, this is so stupid. Mm-hmm. Why are we doing this? Right? Mom, why are we got to drive out here? This is super annoying. And you make us look at these people's houses that we'll never own. Like, right back to conditioning. Right. We're not ever gonna be able to afford to live out here. So my mom pushed off, slamming on the brake. You know, I dang near hit my head, gave myself a concussion. Now I'm old school, but she believing in disciplining their children.
Absolutely.
And so, I'm like ducking. I'm like, you're not gonna hit me, Claire. You're not gonna get a good hit on me. Yeah. And my mom said, look at me. She said, you see that house right over there? Yeah. With the nice lights, the big walkway, the big porch, big, beautiful house. One day you're gonna own a house just like that. She said, boys, look at me. Look at me. Yes, Mom. You ain't no victim. You ain't no victim. Ever allow your circumstances speak to your destiny. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
You are a victor, not a victim. One day you're going to own a house just
Facts.
like that.
I like that. Facts.
So Dr. Gaines, this is maybe like 7-8 years ago. Dr. Gaines was speaking, and actually, no, that wasn't even that long ago. It was probably about 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago. Dr. Gaines was speaking at Kent Meridian. Okay. So I'm like, yo, after we're done speaking, I'm helping him out. I'm like, yo, I'm going to drive back to that same neighborhood. And I'm like, I went and seen the house. Yeah. And like during this, like subsequently, my wife and I were looking for a new house. Okay. So I go and look at the house, and like just to go find. I remember Mom, driving to the neighborhood. Right. I find the house. I'm like, yo, I point at the house, reminding myself. A week later, we end up sitting on a house that's like that house.
Wow.
In Tacoma.
Amazing.
But like what my mom was trying to teach me is that I didn't know anybody at the time home. Like even when we moved in a home, I mean, the house we lived in cost $80,000.
Yeah.
It was slum,
it
wasn't
bottom.
Yeah, man. Like, but what she was teaching though is how to dream.
Yeah.
Dream beyond like my walls. And a lot of what you were saying is like a lot of the work that I do with community, a lot of work that I do with these babies is I find that their dreams have been snuffed out, even adults, because of their environment, circumstances, traumas, what stuff people told them, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a lot of it's systemic, but like for some reason we just have allowed our dreams, our goals, our destiny snuffed out.
Absolutely.
And they've been boxed in. But like my mom was, she did not allow us to box our thinking in. I'd be like, man, such, she's like, you ain't ever the world always gonna see you like a nigga, but you ain't no nigga. You don't have to work hard, right? Like just things she was instilling in, like don't you're not going to give up.
Giving you those nuggets.
Yeah, right. Just little things that she would like give me, like help prepare me for the world in front of me. And I like those tools help to shape and frame my mind.
Yeah.
And so like you can have a bunch of people in the room and we look at things differently.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much similarities, and I find this happening a lot. God is kind of interesting. You're a pretty good God. He's pretty interesting though. There's so many similarities in our stories. My dad was around every once in a blue moon, but my mom, she was the one. She made sure that we survived when we didn't have anything. Christmases, they rarely happen. We got a lot of cards and fruits. I don't know if your mom and dad did fruits and berries and nuts and all that, but my mom was good for filling our stockings with nuts and apples and oranges. Those things. Big. It's like you're saying, we just didn't have any of that. We both went to stadium. I graduated from stadium. Did you graduate?
I graduated.
Good,
yes, sir.
Good,
yes.
Yeah, a lot of people go, but my brothers went. They didn't graduate. I made sure I graduated.
I think I still owed them $50. Never got my diploma.
I ain't even. Hey, this is a true story. I know this is, man. We off topic right now. We just conversating, but like when I graduated, I owed like $730 something.
Oh man, boy, you had every my book too. Every book from your freshman year.
Every book I kept all my books. I never turned my books in. They said, "Hey, until you pay that up, you're not getting your diploma." I was like, "Okay, well, darn, I gotta wait a little bit then."
Yeah.
When I turned 30, I finally got
Come on, you got it though. You got it.
Finally got it. I was like, "Okay, yeah, I waited long enough. Let me go in here and get this taken care of." So finally did it. But let's do this, guys, because I know we're having a good conversation. Everything's going really well. But let's get to our key points right now. I'm gonna ask you about friends, family, and faith. Picked out a couple people that you already know. You had touched on one of them already, which was Dr. John Gaines.
Yeah, that's my brother.
Let's jump into him. Just tell me a little bit about you guys' relationship.
And so I met Dr. Gaines when I was him and I got like real close 7th grade.
Okay.
And Dr. Gaines, we know this, but like that thing that he has that's very special, like that just makes him special. He's always had it.
Right.
And I'll never forget, this is where I just knew like him and I would always be tight. Growing up without my father wasn't around, he's summertime dad.
Yeah.
And I as I get older, I'm able to frame my relationship with him and what he did, and how a lot of the stuff he did was really consequential to my growth. So I love Dad. He's a freaking awesome human. my dad wasn't around in the day to day. I'm in Washington State.
Absolutely.
And so there were areas of my life where I was insecure, and I just would do things just to get attention, you know.
Right.
And I remember we were at South Center Mall. I don't know why, like on a field trip. I don't know why we were there.
Yeah.
But there was like an HBC. We had like one black teacher. He would just take us all out, like he would get all the black kids together.
Yeah.
And lead the I'm joking, right? Like he would take us on these field trips.
Yeah.
And one of them we went to South Center Mall. Now, like this might sound like I'm I don't want to stereotype that space by any means, but I grew up in the area, and I knew like it goes down in certain spots.
Absolutely.
And so like John's like he's like we're down to one of the main like the walk like runways, and he's like walking like I me out here, cuz. I'm like, yo, I know you don't move like you, bro.
You don't move that way, bro.
And he's like, yo, if anybody want to come see me, come see my big homie. My big homie's right here. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, he can get somebody beat up. Yeah. I'm like looking around, like, who's his big homie?
You know, he's probably watching right now. Like, why are you telling the rest?
I'm like, who's your big homie? And he says again, like, come see my big homie. He's right, and he points right at me, and I'm like, ducking. But as funny as that story was, though, I can't tell you how like affirming that was.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow, and he has like your big homie.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm like 11 months older than Dr. Gaines.
Yeah. And
so it was like affirming. It was like the first person who I looked up to,
right? Who
I admired, who like in return looked up to me.
That's awesome. And
it did something to me, and we've always had that relationship,
right?
But he's always led me behind. Mm-hmm. And what I just mean I'm older, right? So like he will say probably the same way I've helped encourage him. But a lot of the reason why I am the man that I am today is because of he modeled like what it meant to be a young, successful black man of excellence.
Absolutely.
He modeled what it looked to be a man of character. He modeled what it looked like to be a man of faith. Mm-hmm. When we were in college, we grew up around church, mm-hmm. and I knew religion. I didn't know Jesus.
Right.
And so, like Dr. Gaines,
that part.
Yeah, right. I knew I didn't know Jesus, mm-hmm. and I remember one day, because I convinced Dr. Gaines to move out to Cali with me when we were in college. So I played college football.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, come out here, let me hit on you for a while. I play DN. So like, so I'm like, come out here, and let me hit you for a while. You know, And we used to have battles, man. We had love-hate relationship during the season.
Yeah.
But one time after practice, I like we're getting ready for a party, so we're getting ready. We live together, and so we go turn up, and and I'm like, yo, it was wild, just do what college guys do. Yeah. So I go back and and everything's pitch black. I'm like, yo, where's my other roommate is out? So I'm like, John. I'm like yelling his name, and John, where you at? Mm-hmm. And it's like completely like pitch black in his room. We got the black curtains up, and I'm like, I come in his room. I'm like, where you at, bro? Yo, where you at, man? It's wild. There ain't no way you sleep. Mm-hmm. Down in his bed. I look over and he's on his knees praying.
Wow.
And I'm like, yo, bro, go to you. Not right now. I know what you was doing. Hey, man, look, I'm down with that. Yeah. I'm not against that.
Yeah.
But let's give it a few days. We'll let it fall, whatever, wash it, take a few showers, whatever we need to do, and then we'll go to church on Sunday.
Right.
And then to explain the gospel to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like Antonio, I know what we were doing. He's like, but man, I believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
And I believe in repentance. And I believe that I am not necessarily what I do. And I'm like, yo, that's dope, man. So we could pray. He's like, can I pray with you? So man, we literally started like these, like 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
We just started these like prayer sessions in his room. And got I think someone was mentoring him, Josh Moen, and like just give him these prayer thing. I think we call it taco prayers.
Yeah. And
we would do like thankful, adoration, confession. I forget all it is. It's been a while since I've done it. But I remember we get to confessions and he created this environment where he taught me how to be real and authentic with myself and with God. Mm-hmm. And he was doing a confession part, and he's like talking about what it means to confess to God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could tell him what I really was doing. Yeah, well, he already knows anyway. So he models it, and it was like confession time. I'm like, Lord, just forgive me. There was a girl walking today. She had a fat booty, but I like looking at it though. Kind of, I don't know how I should feel about it. But you created her. She's beautiful, right? And like, and like John's kind of laughing, but he's like, "Man, good job, bro."
It's a start.
Yeah, right. But like that, like he created an environment and modeled what it looked like to be authentic, like authentically me.
Yeah.
Because like I think for a long time I had been wearing a mask, and Dr. Gaines taught me how to take the mask off, and that was so freeing for me.
That's awesome.
Like like I love that brother, man. Like there's no really no wrong. Like for too long where I could be like because the brother's really changed my life.
Absolutely, that's awesome. He's a great guy, obviously.
Yeah,
shout out to Dr. Gaines out there doing amazing work. Continue to push forward, man. Absolutely, man. So let me give you one more, and then we'll jump to the family portion of it. I mean, you probably didn't see this one coming, but we have a mutual friend, guy that has supported me since I started this journey. His name is Dwayne Anderson.
What? Yeah, that's my brother.
D-Dub. We play dominoes together too.
Oh, really?
We call him Filler because very good.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm gonna tell him this. I hope you watch this because I found out
that's my guy.
Because he be talking big smack. The last time we won,
yeah,
I told him that. I took him the belt.
Yeah, we used to do domino. We used to do domino here every Monday. Wow. He used to come over to my house. All the guys used to come over, and we used to play dominoes every faithfully. Wow. We're just starting to get back into it. Yeah. Not here, but we have a location where we're going to be playing at. So if anybody likes dominoes, every Monday. Yeah, I'm the filler guy. So, but I'm the sleeper though. Okay. Because I've learned the art of like I'm not really good, but I'm good enough to like watch the board. Okay. So if I sit behind, I don't want to sit behind the guy who's really good. Yeah. I want to behind the guy who's really good, who's the guy who he's like, because the guy who's really, really good, he's like cutting this guy off, and this is how I be doing it. It's like the guy who was really good, and then someone else, and then Dwayne, and then me. Dwayne was giving me cash. Yeah. Because he didn't know how to. He didn't know. I'm like, he didn't know how to navigate the person who was throwing him off. Yeah. So by the time of me, I'm like, give him my 25. Yeah. So that's my strategy. I just stay quiet while everybody else is talking. D-Dub's a great guy, great dude. So where you know him from? Where did it all start with you guys? So it's crazy. I actually grew up playing sports against him. Oh, okay. And what's funny because he had the crazy eye, and we used to make up stories like, oh yeah, I heard he's serving a life sentence. We make up stuff like, I heard he stabbed 4 or 5 people. Because he was a hooper, but he was like really good hooper, but he talked to us. Right. And then we ended up living together in college. Oh. And we got cool, but I was football guy, and football guys, it was love with other athletes, but you kind of just you're in your own space. Football. It was love. We hang out. And I think sometimes like we didn't really hang out much too, because like we go out and the girls because we looked together back when I was leaner. Yeah. We was always competing for the same girls. So so maybe that was probably a piece of it too. Yeah. But he ended up moving back to Tacoma. Mm-hmm. He messed up his back. He moved back to Tacoma. And I'm like, yo, man, I had to pay for something, and he always had money for some reason. Yeah. Oh, you get are they giving you some extra money in the financial aid check? Right. What's going on? Right. He ain't had no job. And he always got this money. Yeah. He was the plug, but so he ended up letting me borrow like $80. Okay. And I kind of knew this, but he was getting ready to leave on Saturday. He gave me money on Thursday. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna meet you tomorrow. Because I gotta flip the money. I gotta pay this over here. Yeah. And then I'll go get some money from the payday loan, and I'll pay you. And he's like, cool. So we scheduled a day to meet at the school on Friday before he got on the Greyhound to go back up. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't like intentionally trying. Some things happened. I ended up meeting him. Okay. And so he ended up getting on, heading back to Washington, and I never gave him the money. Uh-oh. And so every time I would see him in Tacoma or Seattle, wherever I was, he'd be like, bro, where my money at? No, I was dodging it. So when I see the one where I'm like intentionally dodging them. I'm like, oh, bro, I got you. Leave me alone, bro. I'm still college struggling. Yeah. Yeah. So, so then fast forward, and this is probably 2014, 2015.
I was going to get my younger brother a haircut, and I raised my younger brother.
Okay.
And so brother haircut, and we went to Legends on 56.
Yeah.
And I'm like just looking for a shop because the place I had typically gone. Oh yeah, Mark ended up leaving the shop.
Yeah.
Mark used to cut my hair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mark left. I moved to Texas or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I got to find a new shop. And so I walked in and I seen Dwayne in there. I'm like, oh crap. So I'm like, told my brother to go in there. I'm like, hey, go in there, man. I'm not gonna come. He's like, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm not.
Call me when you're ready.
Call me when you're ready. Yeah. I'm like, call me when you're ready. And so I ended up having to come in. He's like, what's up, man? But he didn't say nothing to me.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, whenever you want to get cut, because he's just getting started trying to build a I'm like, nah, I'm good, man. I got a good barber, bro. We good. Because then Dennis started cutting me. His brother was cutting me.
Yeah, okay.
I'm like, I'm good. I got a barber now, bro. I'm good, man. I didn't know the connection. And I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Yep.
And so then one day it was like right around tax return season.
Mm-hmm.
You get a few $100 back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna get a. And this is back when I had good hair. And so I pop in and I'm like, all right, okay, it was probably lineups then were like $10.
Right.
And I'm gonna slip them 120.
Right.
And so I like haircuts done. We do the handshake. I got the money in the handshake.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, he sees the money and he's like, oh, what's this? I'm like, bro, man. He's like, nah, bro. I'm like, nah, that's for you, bro. I really like, I'm not gonna let you take this from me. Like this, I just felt in my heart to do this.
Yep.
And he kind of got, and like he took me to, bro, I was going through a rough time. I had been praying for a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Lord, I've been struggling, and he had something that was going on.
Yeah.
And he was like, that was the defining moment for me.
Absolutely. And
he's like, ever since then, we just cool because now I don't got to dodge him. Yeah. Sometimes I want to hang out with him. I'm like, all right, now I got to dodge you now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's been a beard now for, he's been out of the shop for a while, praying for you, brother, back to get healed. But it just has been my brother. Our families travel because his boys are very similar age.
Yeah.
And so, man, we just my wife and my wife connect. They do live together.
That's cool.
Sometimes it'll be like every night, like three, four nights a week, we be together. Yeah. Hey, you go watch the game. Hey, you gonna watch you gonna do this. Hey, kids. So I am blessed.
Mm-hmm.
Got me because people like Sage, people like Dwayne, I have Timmy Foster, right? Like so many.
Yeah.
I have like DeQuint. I have so many like
shout out to all those amazing people.
I am like because of Christ. So I won't take no credit away from. But a part of what I've learned is that a part of my is I understood that I would be accepted if I can get in the spaces in the circles. And so a part of like my success has been surrounding myself around great people, right? You hear this, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So I'm like, absolutely. I remember somebody told me in college, I'm okay, cool, I'm just going to get around great people.
Yeah.
So like when I would hear people talk about Dr. Gaines, I'm like, well, shoot. I mean, for sure, if I tell them all the time, if you're going in there, I know at least I'm gonna have enough to buy a car.
Yeah.
right. Like I don't know I'm gonna get, and he's like, you're gonna be a millionaire too. Like, that's what I've always loved about the people that I do life with, is like they've always been very generous with their gift, but also affirming and seeing things in me. Like I have a nonprofit, and a lot of the work that I do now, like Dr. Gaines was pulling out of me. Like even in ministry, like I always admire. I thought God was going to use him, and I was just going to be carrying his Bible everywhere.
Yeah.
And like Dr. Gaines and a lot of other my friends, Dwayne, those individuals, where they're always constantly reminding and affirming things that sometimes I didn't always see, and I think it's like most of my lessons I learned from my mom was a gardener. And you talk about apples. Like I learned that like everything that the apple seed needs in order to become what it was destined to be is inside of it. And sometimes we're buried. We're placed in darkness. Right? We find ourselves in these spaces where we're secluded and we don't have any vision. We don't know what's beyond the surface.
Yeah.
But like that's where God like places us to root us, to prepare us for what we're to become.
Right.
And so like there was always greatness within me. I just always just saw the darkness and what the lies that people had told me. Insecurity. I had a speech impediment and I struggled with my grade. I didn't learn how to read till I was 22 and started reading the Bible. So I had all these insecurities about me, but like I'll get around like these people who love me and they'd be like, man, you're great. You're a great communicator. Like I literally, I had a real anxiety around like communicating, like sweaty hands, like throw up, like morning sickness, stomach hurting.
It just comes natural.
Yeah, and it's just come natural. And a lot of it is like, I remember one time Dr. Gaines was at school, and Gaines is leading, and I just used to kind of just be a fly on the wall. And he's like, "Yo, Antonio's gonna lead the session today."
Just put you on blast. Y'all didn't even talk about it.
We didn't talk about it. So like, we have a hitting relationship. Like, that loving hit. He gets behind me, like punching me in my back, and he's like, "Yo, get your butt up there, walking slow." I'm like, "Yay, guys!" And he like kind of thrust me in the back.
Yeah.
And damn, it kind of hurt, but like I'm grateful for that, right?
Yeah.
Because he was some people, right? This is Bible teaching. Some people, their healing is in the faith of others, right? You think about the man that was paralyzed. He had friends that lured him to Jesus.
Yeah.
And Jesus talked about his friend's faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to myself, like, one of them said, because it says to this man, he says, "Man, your sins are forgiven." And everyone's like, "Whoa, blasphemy! Like, who the heck do you think you are that you can forgive sins?" He says, "So that everyone will know that the Son of Man has the power to forgive sins. Get up and grab your mat." I had to forgive myself for the mistakes that I made, for the lies that I had internalized, that I believed. I think there are people here that are maybe even watching.
Absolutely.
Friends like that. You've been entertaining lies for your entire life, stuff that people told you were, or you couldn't be, or you couldn't become. And like me, when I read that particular scripture, I'm like, man, I have to forgive myself decisions that I've made in that mind frame.
Right.
And I had to give myself permission to be a miracle. I had to give myself to be healed. And I believe so much of like my life has become a product of having really good friends that are willing to bring me to Jesus, willing to bring me to the people, willing to open doors for me. Hey, Antonio's your guy, right? Like, hey, you need Antonio, and in that place of like walking in my healing, responding to the space, not being like, well, right, like I guess I'm in front of you guys, like embracing that moment,
right?
And I had to give myself permission to be, Like we have to give ourselves. I just want to tell young people, it's my message. Give yourself permission to be great.
Absolutely.
Because each and every one of you, I'm literally in school, 40 kids in the classroom. And I'm like, give yourself permission to be great. I said, each and every one of you are worthy of love. Young lady raises her hand. I'm not loved.
Wow.
I'm not loved. And like stops me in my lesson plan. I'm like, what do you mean you're not loved? My mom, my dad did this. She starts talking about my dad's prostitute and I was named it right. She all is broken. And I said, hey, listen, you don't know me. I said, but I said, I love you, young queen.
Yes.
I said, you're not going to, she's like, no, I'm not. No one loves me. I said, you're not going to change my mind. Well, how can you love me? I said, you're a human. Do the human work. And I believe that there's someone waiting on your greatness. I said, is there anyone here that you have any friends in this classroom? All her friends raise their hand. I said, did anybody love her here? Right. And we just take the next 5 minutes and we just encourage this young person.
Absolutely. And
I think to myself, like, man, we have to give ourselves permission to be great. But like, just like this young girl, I relate to that because I'm like, no, I'm not loved. I can't do this. I'm right. She was snuffing herself down at this point.
Right.
She mentally, even when you tell me this is great, I can do this. Nope, I'm not. I'm going to choose not to. Yeah. And I said, hey, this class doesn't matter anymore. Like what the lesson plan doesn't matter anymore. The video, the homework, none of that matters anymore. You're the most important thing to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and I've had friends that have done that for me.
That's amazing. Wow. Sheesh. Okay, so let's venture over to something that I know is extremely important in your life, and I know it because you made it. You let it be known out the gate when I sent you the blueprint of your photo.
Yeah.
Family.
Yeah.
How important is your family to you?
Their legacy. Dr. Gaines, I got my master's degree and I got my MBA, and my emphasis was in organizational leadership.
Mhm.
And I became enamored with wealth and this concept of legacy. My son, young.
Okay.
So to tell you how enamored I was with this idea.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with Dr. Gaines years ago, and he said, wealth isn't what you leave for people, it's what you leave in them.
Mm-hmm.
And my family is everything because they have created an environment so dad could fly.
Wow.
And like when I come home, my wife has created an environment where dad gets to be a superhero.
Awesome.
And I have flaws like everyone else.
Right.
Like I dropped the ball, but like, man, I come home and my house is like, there's so much peace in my home. And yeah, like you have stuff and I have responsibilities and I have to lead my family, my household. But like my wife has been my biggest like cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy being connected to me because
Yeah.
like it is not easy. Like it's funny, DQ by a guy DQ, big Black Samoan player from Compton, gangbanger. He'll call me sometimes. He'd be like, "Bro, that's harsh, man."
Mental giants is what they call it.
He'd be like, "Bro, I thought you was gonna give me some motivation." I'm like, and so I realized sometimes it's a burden being around an individual who's called to not only serve but to do it through the perspective of truth. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not always everyone's friend. Like people love Dr. Gaines. Yeah. And I think people have learned to love me. Like, because I'm just not gonna go away. We just gonna keep serving. Like I always tell people my love link, my superpower is that I'm willing to like stand with people in their mess. Mm. Like, but I always tell people, you're gonna hear me. I'm gonna talk about you while we're here. Yeah. But we're just gonna be here rolling around in the mess. But like, I'm gonna tell you that you're putting pig on a lipstick on a pig, right? I'm just, and so I realize because my wife oftentimes has to carry the weight of that, the weight of having a husband who's gone traveling and always like being pulled from people, especially as a minister. Like, I'll never forget I took my wife out on a date night. And we're I think on Tacoma Avenue, there's like this sushi burrito place, fire by the way. Yeah. And it's late. I mean, it's like 8:30 at night. Mm-hmm. And somebody's walking by. I don't even remember the young man's name. But he's carrying a luggage suitcase. Yeah. And he walks past, like kind of like I'm Trading Places movie, right? He's walking past the window. He comes back, start banging on the window. Yeah. Mr. Antonio. Pastor Antonio. Now, when I hear that language, I know, like, okay, this is the context they know me. Mm-hmm. And this is like a year and a half ago. Okay. So I'm like, I'm like, sorry, I got it. Will you go outside? Will you pray with me, please, please, please? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, all right, I gotta disrupt, disrupting, our time. Our time together. Yeah. I go out and pray with this young man. He's like, he just breaks down crying. He's like, Pastor Antonio, my life is in shambles, and like, I don't even remember the kid's name. But like, I just, I gave this kid a hug. I told him I loved him, prayed for him. And, he just kept it pushing. But I'm like, that's, you have to be very secure, for your life to constantly be interrupted. Mm-hmm. Right. Like my son, my son 2 weeks ago, he's like, Dad, he's 9 years old. Mm-hmm. He's like, Dad, I'm sick and tired of sharing you with the rest of the world. Mm. And then that broke my heart, man. Absolutely. Because I'm like, son, I'm, trying to get a scriptural God answer. Yeah. That. And I'm like, well, son, sometimes just God gives us a burden and and responsibility. And, and our family sometimes feels the weight of it. And he had his head down. And I said, son, that's why, I coach your basketball team. And son, that's why I do this and show up. And that's why, that's why. He's like, Dad, I don't care about any of those things. Because even when you coach my team, I have to share you again.
Still sharing.
I'm like, oh,
yeah.
He says, Dad, what I really want from you is I just want to be able to go outside and play basketball with you at night.
Yeah.
When you get home, but you're tired. I want to play football with you, throw the football around. I'm like, oh, so you don't really care about those big things. It's the little things. I'm like, thank you, son. Thank you. So my family has to carry the weight of me being all things to all people. And I have to be careful too, because I am not a savior and I'm not their savior.
Right.
And so I need to be reliant, and I have to take time to fill my cup, but also fill in and pour into my family's.
Yeah. And
so I'm grateful for my bride who my children are, like, outside of my wife, are the greatest gift that God. I have great boys. I feel sorry for anybody else's kids, because my kids are like, I tell people my kids are great. Yeah. My kids are gonna change the world. Everybody else's kids go, but my kids are gonna really, like, I just and that's the way that I am very intentional with messages that I give them, like what they're supposed. Like I'm like, yo, I'm hard on them, but like they know why I'm hard. Like we went and worked out this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm not concerned about how much money they make as much as like what they leave for the world and what they leave in it. And so my wife allows me to parent boys.
That's cool.
Like she allows, and she, she's my wife she's just dope, man. She prays over our family. She's created a structure in my absence that whether or not I'm there, it continues.
Yes, absolutely.
And my wife lets me lead me. That's like the greatest thing. I tell men who may be watching this, like, I think the greatest thing that a woman could ever give you is to allow you to lead her. My wife is African, like, bro, she don't play that, man. Like, she don't. So there's no soft stepping, right? It took me 10 years to earn the right to lead her.
Wow.
Cause I had to earn her trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. We talk a lot of the biblical framework, submission comes submarine so you're submersed.
Yeah.
Mission. And so, like, I think oftentimes as a man, right, this masculine idea that sometimes is very dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm the man, I'm the husband, you got to listen to me and I lead the family, blah, blah, blah. But like, I realized that the more I was about creating clarity in my mission, in my vision, that the more that my wife created space to allow me to. And so I always tell that I mentor, like, you need to have a very, very, very big vision, and you have to be able to communicate it well enough that a woman will come alongside of you and allow you to lead her and to lead your relationship, trust you to do so.
Yeah, for sure.
So like my wife says all the time, like, yo, I wouldn't listen to this. I wouldn't listen to this Negro if I didn't see him on his face praying. If I didn't see him in the Bible reading, like if I didn't see him, how he treats our children, if I didn't see how he handles me, like she's like, I mean, like she's like, my husband handles me with so much gentleness. She's like, he can be tough sometimes.
Yeah.
Gentle.
Right.
Opinionated most of the time, but he's gentle with me. And she said he earned the right for me to have, like, for me to give him that.
Absolutely.
So I trust him more than I oftentimes trust in myself.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's a gift. My wife, like, that's earned, man.
Blessed. That's amazing. Shout out to wifey. Shout out to family.
Yeah.
Sounds like you got a beautiful beautiful thing going, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, God bless me.
And that's the portion. This is the portion of the show where we enter off into that part of our lives. How important is your faith to you, man?
It is my operating system. I am, because I had an encounter with God. Like, I've been around religion, church, and so I knew the language and the lingo, and I knew, what to stand up for and what outfits to wear. But I was broken and messed up, and I had stuff, and I was, just as ratchet as everybody else.
Right.
But when I was 21 years old, man, I had stopped faking, man. I was in like in a good relationship, you know, in all worldly terms, but I was in a broken relationship where I didn't know who I was and she didn't know who she, you know, like I was beneath like the man that I felt called to be. And I was booked football. I tore my pectoral major. So like my whole world as a man, as a black man, a lot of my ideology was wrapped in sports. I'm like, yo, that's how I'm gonna change my narrative for my family. I'm gonna put on, like, I'm gonna get everyone's respect and earn everyone when I come back and I pull up after the league, blah, blah, blah. Right. So I'd embrace that ideology and that my identity was wrapped in it. So when I lost football for 8 months, like my world like crumbled. Right. And it forced me to look in there, and I didn't know who I was. I always had been an athlete. And I would deal with myself, and I didn't like what I saw. And I started having a real conversation with myself, and I was battling addiction, and like I mean, a real bad, you know, like just like adult, you know, like pornography, man, all that stuff. That was just bad, man. Yeah. And I'll never forget. This was April 9th, 2009. And I was living with my girlfriend at the time, but I still had my own apartment, so I could sneak away, you know, just in case things, you know, she's getting them, you know, I had to go to quietude, peace, solitude. And I locked myself in the bathroom, and I balled up in the shower and water running on, crying, man, bawling my eyes out. And cause I felt like I was a fraud, I was a liar, man. I'm like, I didn't know myself anymore. Felt lost, you know, probably like depression, you know, like I've never had suicidal thoughts before. But like I was in that, like, you know, that dark. You was in that dark. I was in just a dark space. I would never hurt myself, but I just was in that. I whatever that emotions I imagine people felt, it's probably the closest thing that I can kind of tie to. Yeah. To give people an image. And I just cried out to God, and I said, I'm just so sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired. And I remember praying, which is like weird. Sometimes God gives you words. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm tired of running. And I sometimes do this with myself. I dialogue with myself. I'm like, bro, what are you running from? Right. And I'm like, I'm tired of running. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll go wherever you want me to say. Like, go say, I'll do it. But like, yo, you got to change some things, man. Like, you got to take this stuff from me. I'm like, I can't. I tried. You just got to take it. Right. I need a miracle. And my roommate, his mom was a pastor. Shout out to Marcus Ford, my brother from another mother. His mom was a pastor, and his phone had been cut off, so he needed to call his mom. So he called mom, and I'm like, hey, before you got the phone, can I talk to your mom? I wanted to pray for me. So he talks to mom, gets on the phone. Before I could say anything, she says, Antonio, the Lord gave me a word about you. And she's like, and she just started reading my mail. Like stuff that, like, there's stuff that not even that I would intentionally keep a secret, but just stuff like here. I had to have a, what do you call when they cut your gums open and clean them? I'd have like a surgery, like basically where they just clean out my gums. Yeah. Because I wasn't flossing. Okay. And I like not intentionally keeping this a secret. It's just like, you know, it's just what. It's not something that's talked about. Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't like, yo, bro, I gotta go have surgery on my gum. Yeah. She's like, hey, the Lord told me that He's healing your gums. Well, I knew that because before I thought my roommate told her, or maybe she saw something on Facebook or whatever, or that's I'm like, I'm like, some of this stuff is just luck of the draw. But when she said that, I'm like, oh dang. This is from God. This is from God. And I remember in that moment when, like, I felt arrested. Like, when you feel like, all right, you got me. Like, this is real. I felt like the Spirit of God, like, enveloped me. Like, you go through a car wash and that are big, huge fans on you. I felt that all around me, and I started bawling my eyes out. Now I'm a college football. I grew up around, you don't cry. You don't never cry. Yeah. And I'm like, all that went out the window. I'm like, the ugly cry, snot in my nose. Yeah. And I hear the Lord say, like, Antonio, you're holy. And I'm like, okay, I've been to church long enough where I know, like, a little bit. I'm like, okay, cool. You good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm going to heaven. I'm good. I'm like, I'm like, yo, I can go back and live out my lifestyle. Yeah, all right, I'll call my girl. We good. Like conviction was kicking my butt.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and then I hear a whisper, Antonio, righteous. And I'm like, no, hold on now. Like, how? Show, prove it. Right? Like that kind of theologically broke me. Grew up with 10 commandments. I'm like, no, that broke them about 9 out of 10.
Right.
And this was my gospel moment. I heard the Lord say, Antonio, you are because I am. I'm like, yo, that just broke me, man. I just crawled in a little ball and I just bawled my eyes out because I realized that I had been trying, back to daddy issues, right? That I would been trying to earn God's approval.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I do this, right back to my conversation with Dr. Gaines,
right.
He don't want to talk to you. Let's once we figure things out, then he like something bad would happen. I'm like, dang, he trying to get me. Yeah. He saw what I did last week.
Yeah.
But but that shattered my theology, but also just my understanding and comprehension of like my relationship with God. Because I stood in unforgiveness and righteousness and holiness, not because of something that I had done.
Right.
That's a very hard concept, like cognitively to even wrap your mind around. How can you tell me that I'm righteous? It's because my son is.
Right. Because
of what my son did for you. You perpetually stand in the propitiation of my righteousness. When I look on you, I look on my son Christ and the finished work of the cross. And there's nothing more that you can do to earn your way into this family. You are because I am. And that changed, that shifted. That didn't mean I didn't stop making mistakes. It didn't mean
right.
But it changed the operating system.
Yes.
And how I engage with God.
Absolutely.
And that was like, and I accept my call in the ministry, and it just in my entire world shifted from that space.
Amazing though when you finally get like that goes aha,
yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, I used to think, when you hear about lightness and darkness, I used to always think that light was like punishment, right? Like if you're in darkness, the light shows up, shine light on you. Look what you're doing. You're being ratchet. Get your finger out of it. Right? like stealing money, right? Like
yeah.
But what I realized though is, imagine this idea: if you were looking for something that was consequential for your day, for your month, like if there was like your wallet, your keys, like I gotta be in this appointment meeting today. If I am late, it will ruin. Right? Like, how many times have you done that in darkness? Right. So what I realized is that what oftentimes we miss in Christ, right, the person of Christ, is that the light isn't about punishment. The light is about making me aware of what he's given me.
Absolutely.
I didn't understand who I was. Like I didn't know that I was me.
Yeah.
Like if I would have saw this guy, like if I can go back in time and I was watching a reel of this, I'd be like, yo, who's that dude? He kind of looked like me. No, that's like who? Like you couldn't have convinced me that I was me.
Right. That's crazy.
Interesting. And so like I think back to like faith being the is the foundation of that. It is the seed that blossomed. And I wouldn't be the man. I wouldn't be confident. I wouldn't have the confidence that I had. Like we wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for faith. And I believe that I used to think that in order to be effective in the work in the kingdom and helping others, that I needed a platform and I had to work for a church. But part of why I believe I'm at community centers and I do a lot of work in schools is because often we forget the work is where the people are. I love church. I love worship music. I love my spaces of worship. But I think we've insulated ourselves from the people who look like me, my mom was an outcast in church spaces. She had a lot of brokenness but she loved her boys and faith was the center of like our house. She prayed for us. But my mom, like, she didn't structurally work in church spaces. She didn't have her stuff together. Yeah. She didn't always dress, like the appropriate, like she had stuff going on and people were aware of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think to myself, like, man, where are we failing those people? And I've always felt called to the broken, to the underserved, to the invisible, that God would call them. And I want to build a ministry around serving humans and people, and not just giving people the gospel from an evangelistic perspective. That can be very sexy and attractive when you're going to lower socioeconomic communities or Black and brown communities and you're sharing this gospel. But like for me, the work has always been about discipleship. There's nothing more like when I get tough, hard kid. It's like I had a kid. He was tough. This boy on the east side. He come from gangbanging background too.
Okay.
And he's giving my staff a hard time. And we bring him in the office, and this is like our process before we have to tell students to take a break. And he's like, yeah, hard. And I'm like, he's not. My staff is talking to him. We're talking. He's not listening. I said, bro, can I ask you a question? I'm like, bro, when's the last time that like a man, and I don't know funny stuff, but like when's the last time a man hugged you and told you he loved you? So he starts. He's like, I don't know, man. Man, it broke my heart, man. He's like, oh, I don't know, Mr. Antonio. I remember the last time. I'm like, bro, man, I love you, man. I love you, bro. Come give me like feel that. That's love, man. That's love. That's love, bro. I haven't had one problem out of him. And I'm like, that's what our young boys need. That's what our young queens need. That's what they need.
Yep.
Right? Like, yeah, sure, man. Like the gospel transforms lives. But we forget that John 1:17 says that it says that the law came through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus. So what did Jesus do? He came meeting people's basic needs. Like people don't care about my theology until I show them how much I care. Like Jesus came touching people. Hey, your shoulder. Hey, your arm. Like, hey, your like whatever your basic need is. Like I am what I am. I am. So that's why, like on my, it says I am somebody.
Yeah,
I am, because like that's what I want these young people to. You are somebody.
Absolutely. So real quick, thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate all you guys for listening in. Such an amazing conversation with Antonio, brother, for coming in and be a part of this. You're absolutely spectacular from top to bottom. I mean, I feel like I've lived almost the same story.
Vicariously, huh?
And then not so much. I need to catch up a little bit. But real quick, why don't you share your nonprofit with the people? Let them know a little bit about that. If they want to get in contact with you, maybe have a conversation or a prayer session with you, how they can go about doing that.
My nonprofit, shout out to Dr. John Gaines again.
Absolutely.
This is maybe probably 3 years ago. I was in schools with Dr. Gaines. I'm like, yo, hire me, give me a job. And he's like, nah, I'm not gonna hire you, bro. Start your own. Like, you can do for yourself. You bring just as much content value to the space.
Absolutely.
So he connected me with some people. And in the process of my MBA program, and what I realized I wanted to do is to develop a curriculum, help serve our young boys, and obviously like which is broad enough where you can serve all humans. But let me say it like this. I wanted to be pro young Black males in the content, and I wanted them to see themselves, and I wanted to integrate like social emotional learning principles, integrated with financial literacy. The Secretary of School of Education said that the two greatest issues facing our students today is social emotional learning. So like their well-being, their emotional well-being, mental health, and finances.
Right.
And so I wanted to help bring practical solutions to our young babies. But in the integration of implementing these work in schools, I realized that I was giving information to young people that they didn't have the resources, because they were oftentimes going into a home where they didn't have that information. So then it expanded, and it was like, all right, well, let's do the community work. Let's work with the parents. And then it was like, all right, well, we don't want the school to undo, right? Because these young Black boys or brown boys coming to the schools, and the first thing they tell them is, "Hey, you're going to be a great athlete. You're going to be a great artist."
Right.
And LeBron, they've removed the Dr. King and the Malcolm X, like in the Harriet Tubman is all LeBron James. Now, nothing against LeBron James,
right?
But what are you telling our children, right? When they right, and so I wanted to develop something where young people could see themselves, see like real pathways,
right? Absolutely.
Because you can go to college and develop and get $100,000 worth of of college debt.
Yeah.
Or like someone could tell you about like electrician or plumber, right? And you could make my brother is an engineer, right? And making over 6 figures, right? He's in his 30s. He just turned 30 years old. Yeah. In his 20s, he's making 6 figures, right? And it only require 1 year of school, right? And so a part of it is like, how can I help make the world really big, expand their world? And so that's got a lot of like the more like the like a lot of what our curriculum is, and the young boys and girls and young in the community that we work around. But my nonprofit's called Inspiration.
Priceless information.
Inspiration. Inspiration Foundation. You can find me on pricelessinspiration.org.
Okay.
And a lot of information about the work we do, how you can connect with myself. And my email is info@antonioinspires.com. So you can get a hold of me. My 9 to 5 is work with Metro Parks Tacoma, oversee community centers. And so we're always looking to partner with community members. A part of what I believe my role is at community centers is to help heal, restore, and build community using government's resources. And so that's my 9 to 5, but my 24/7 is my nonprofit and mentoring boys, young girls, young queens, and kings, and helping to prepare them for the world that's in front of them. So,
absolutely. Tamar?
Yeah, that's my guy.
Shout out to Tamar.
Shout out to Tamar.
We went to school together. So.
That's my guy. Man, I love that. Unapologetically him.
Yeah.
Unapologetically him.
Yeah, I
swinging dread and everything.
Absolutely.
Hey,
that's my guy. Shout out to Tamar if he's watching out there. But guys, thank you guys so much for being here. We're gonna go ahead and close up shop. We're a little bit after an hour, about an hour and 20 minutes into this session. No, we're good. This is exactly what we came for. Matter of fact, because I'm not ready to go, I want to ask one last question. If you guys have anything you need to say to my guy, please go ahead and write it in the comments. We will get you all the information that he just specified on his nonprofit and where he works at and how you can get in contact with him as soon as we get with this. But what do you want people to remember about you when you leave this world?
Oh, man.
Legacy. We was talking legacy earlier. What do you want people to remember about you?
I want it to be said that I was an individual, a human, that created space to empower others to see what's within them. I feel like that's my assignment is like create space for young people, for adults, for other people who are struggling, like to really see what they're capable of, right? Like I am somebody. I want people to know that they're valued. Yeah. I share this with my students. I said, imagine if I were to give you $1 million check. I'm not there yet, but I'll get there. Imagine I gave everybody here $1 million check. I said, if your value is in the valuables, then the valuables are of no value. Oftentimes think, well, if I just had money, we'll say that to the lotto winners, where over 70% of them are broke within a year.
Yeah.
Say that to our professional athletes, that over 80% of them are broke 4 years after. So like, if my values, right? If value's not here and here, then the valuable is of no value. No matter how much valuables I give you. I can give you $100 million and I tell kids, you'll be broke in a year, I promise you. If you think your value is in these and this, not in this.
Right.
So like I want people there, regardless of whether or not you are serving him. We are all his creation.
Absolutely.
And his creation has a purpose and a value.
Absolutely.
Seeds have to bear. Apple seeds are destined to be apple trees. I've never planted an apple seed and got a banana.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many young people I meet that are an orange and they're trying to be a strawberry. No, be what God created you to be.
Absolutely.
Be what God created you to be. Be you unapologetically. We were all beautifully and wonderfully created.
That part.
Be you, because that's what this world needs.
Yes.
Does it need more me's? It needs more use.
Absolutely.
More use. Right? Like
more use.
More use. That's what I would leave.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, this is the thing, guys. We're going to go ahead and close shop. We're going to get out of here. For next week, if you guys are going to be here, make sure you guys tune in. We're going to be with a young man that I've known since, my times on 12th and Sheridan when I used to run those streets on the hilltop. Mr. T.J. Walker, young brother, doing amazing things out in Cali, on his filmmaking, just produced a major film himself. We're going to have him here for another conversation about his upbringing, all the things that I already know about him, but you guys are going to get to learn too. So T.J. Walker next Saturday, we'll be sitting with him. Thanks again, Antonio, man.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you, man. God bless you.
God bless you.
And your family, and I wish you all the best. Hopefully we can connect again on a different aspect of it, not just in this mode, but out there doing some work for the community. Absolutely. No question. All right, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you guys real soon. Stay blessed. Peace.